started a lot of these just going.
Trevor Lawrence wins the Heisman #2. Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship. I guess that means they lose to us in the.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, Alabama's won every other year since like 2012. So, you know, to be honest with you, I think they're going to take it next year. It's just something about
Bama?
Yeah, I think I think Clemson will be good by all means.
How does that fucking thing work?
I don't know with our defensive front situation if we're good enough.
Right.
Well, we've got to. You got to flip it the other way. To unclip the jib. There you go. It's usually easier that way if you stand it up, but it's not very good.
No, it sucks, basically.
All right.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think that with our defensive front, I mean, we've got guys that just think we have too much inexperience, and I don't think we're gonna be good enough to get there. I mean, I think we'll be good enough to get to the playoff, I think. But I mean, man, we lost everybody.
Yeah, but they got talent, man. So it's just whether those guys can show up and produce or whether they need games to get ready to produce.
Yeah. I mean, right now, the way too early prediction has us #1.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because...
But you've got our 2 returning defensive tackles we got right now are hurt in Jordan Williams and Niles Pinckney. And the hope is that they'll be ready for... summer or fall, at least, before the season starts at the end of the summer. But they're not going to play in the spring games. So you said, talk about spring games. And we're on, by the way. When is that? We are on. We are we're on. We're not that we haven't been, but our game is going to be probably the highlighted one, whereas Alabama is.
It's ESPN2. They released it already.
So... that is where I'm going to be interested to see what we do because, I mean, it's going to be freshmen, and more freshmen at the D tackle position in the spring game. There's going to be no seasoned people.
That doesn't mean they can't produce, though, because Christian Wilkins came in and produced right away. Lawrence came in and produced right away. It looks like Tyler Davis or whatever. Seems like he's going to come in and produce right away. That's just a spot where you need to be skilled. I mean, there's less that you need to learn and more skills you need to have.
That's true. But, I mean, also we got, the secondaries. Aside from Travion, we got everybody coming back for the most part. Well, and Mark Fields. But did you see that post from Kayvon Wallace who's like, just as it was at the end of the season where they said if Clemson has a weakness, it's going to be the secondary. They kept, before the championship, it was referring to South Carolina and Texas A&M, how those SEC schools threw all over us. And they were pissed off. Well, I just read an article recently where Kayvon was like, yeah, that thing's old, man. Where Kayvon was like, we're still, feel like we're disrespected back here.
Well, they are. And they should, they didn't have an outstanding year. I'm trying to think of a game where I thought that they made the difference. And
the championship game.
Well,
again, I mean, you were going against the best Alabama offense under Nick Saban ever. Under Saban,
the defensive line was on fire.
They were, but man, Travion's stock went. It's like he knew this is it for me to move my stock up in the draft, even though some had him in the first round. But he's now solid first round. He moved his stock up. Everybody in the second, like Fields, came. Everybody stepped up in that. Dude, Isaiah Simmons, friggin' Terrell, first pick of the game for a touchdown.
AJ Terrell.
Our secondary that game had played their best game of the year. That by far.
By far. But that's the thing. That was the one.
Yeah.
So
you can't leave it up to that all season. It's not going to happen like that.
You still have Taylor Muse getting burned by looking in the backfield for most of the season. Yeah. Not as bad as last year.
I know. And the hope is that next year he gets... He did get better from the year before. Hopefully he gets a little better because he does hit like a brick shit house.
Well, that's why I wouldn't be surprised to see him go into Kayvon Wallace's spot if we have other guys who can produce.
Or even move into linebacker.
Well, that's what he was our nickel backer.
And yeah.
And he did well. And I mean, he's 6'3", 210 maybe. Wallace. I think Taylor Muse is about the same size. And with his level of aggression, I think moving him closer to the line of scrimmage will help eliminate him getting beat over the top all the time.
Well, and we have the two. I don't think they redshirted last year, but the two kids out of Georgia, I think.
Kyler McMichael
and
Goodwin.
Yeah, Marquise Goodwin, I think his name. No, the Marquise Goodwin plays for the 49ers. It's I know who you're talking about. But those guys can move in this year into some of those corner or free spots if we wanted to bring Tanner down.
Yeah, I
if
think
they're good enough.
That, and we have 5-star corner coming in this year, right?
Yes.
Booth.
We have a 4 and a 5-star. One's from they're both from Georgia, I think.
I mean, they
both
said
played at like Archer.
They said Booth is going to be like a McKenzie situation, which to me means he comes right in and he starts locking down a side of the field his freshman year.
That would be great. That would be great. Let's talk a little bit about Oklahoma. Now that they've got Jalen Hurts moving over there. And, you know, obviously people are talking about him in the Heisman run, rightfully so. The past 2 Heisman winners were the quarterbacks at Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley's got that thing clicking. I mean, they did lose, Marquise Brown, probably their best wide receiver, but they do have CeeDee Lamb, and that guy's badass.
I don't think Jalen Hurts has it in him. I do not think he can throw the ball enough to be able to do it. I think he'll run that.
They're always going to have a good line there, and Riley will adapt the system to Hurts.
Kyler Murray was a better thrower than Hurts is, I think.
I agree, and I think even as a walk-on, I think that Baker was a better thrower than Jalen Hurts.
Right. Jalen doesn't. I don't see him at the next level, at least at the quarterback position. I don't know.
You know who he reminds me of if he were to go to the next level is Jason Campbell from Auburn.
Right. And what happened there?
Nothing. I mean, he was like.
I
think he'll be all right. I mean, like, they're going to draw it up, and they're going to sling it all over the yard. There's no defense in the Big 12.
And that's where it's going to be hard to see, because my thought with him going to Oklahoma was you'll be able to see what Nick Saban was able to get out of him versus what Lincoln Riley is able to get out of him in terms of being a passer. And I don't believe the passing offense is a high priority for Saban, and I believe it is more so for Lincoln Riley. Plus, you throw in that there's no defense.
Yeah. I mean, that, and I mean, they have playmakers there, and I mean, keep in mind, he was 26-2 as a starter at Alabama against the SEC, so he's not bad.
He was on Alabama.
I know. But
so he had a defense that's going to give up 17 points. So, I mean, I wonder, what were the scores when he was a starter? I know they were winning, but how many points were they putting?
Well, it wasn't what they did this past year. That's why I started the conversation off saying, that last year with Tua was the best, highest, most prolific offense that Alabama has had.
Well, and that's why I'm saying with Hurts, I don't think, save a few of the outlier games, that they were really lighting up the scoreboard that much.
No,
they were just keeping the other team from lighting up the scoreboard,
true.
And they were holding on to the ball and running the ball and burning clock.
Yeah, I mean,
they were winning convincingly, but they were winning convincingly with defense and controlling the ball.
And that was, I mean, maybe that was part of their demise this year, because their defense was good, but it wasn't as good as ours. As much as people may have not have thought that. I don't even know if their defense was as good as like Georgia's this year. Georgia had a good defense,
Well, I don't think they faced a passing attack that was anywhere near what we had to offer all season. I think that Georgia was probably the best passing team that they faced. I mean, if you just think SEC teams
Texas
like
A&M maybe. They didn't face Missouri, so they didn't face Drew Lock. Texas A&M maybe would have been the only other one outside of Georgia. I don't know if you want to say they're as good as Georgia in terms of passing, but
well, and I think that's why they were ill prepared for what we had to offer in terms of the passing game. Because once there were a couple balls thrown and we started to get our rhythm, it was all over.
oh yeah, I mean, that game we started to get them right out the gate. And speaking of Texas A&M, I mean, keep in mind, Clemson gets them this year at home. That's what? Is that the second?
That's
game?
the second game of the season.
September 7th.
First game of the season is Georgia Tech at home.
Is it really?
First game of the season.
Huh.
The 29th. I'm thinking about going to that one.
We should definitely do that. So we get A&M at home.
A&M at home the week after.
That's all right. That's all right.
No, I've got no problem with that.
I think. I mean, Jimbo's doing a good job over there. But this is gonna. And I know last year. I mean, say what you will about Kelly. We wouldn't. I don't know that we would have beaten A&M if it weren't for Kelly.
No, I don't think we would have.
And I say, we know how great Trevor is. He had a decent game. I never want to say he had a bad game, but I don't want to say it was great, let alone good, let alone great. Decent game. But if it weren't for that atmosphere that early on the road in that environment and being asked to kind of carry the load, I just don't think he was as ready as he was toward the end of the season. And that's why Kelly was so important.
Well, that's the only game, the only situation where I ever looked at the game and said that I thought he was rattled.
Yep.
I mean, I thought he was rattled a little bit. He was a little fish out of water in that game.
Well, that in Syracuse, I felt like, but there was a lot more going on with Syracuse. Before he got knocked out,
there was too much going on outside the lines of the field that was affecting what was happening.
With Kelly going and Fuller dying and all that nonsense, it just got a little crazy. But this year he's not this guy. This kid is something else, buddy.
No,
this kid is just we're very, very lucky.
I think he is already probably one of the top 3 college quarterbacks, if not the bar none number 1 college quarterback, before he even finished his freshman season.
That's incredible.
I think the kid that stepped on that field in California was the best college football player in the NCAA all year.
Oh yeah. You would have questioned that before the game because of Tua, but I'm not a huge Tua fan, and I always respect Alabama. But, I was at the game with Marler, and he's a big Alabama fan, and he works for Saturdays Down South, which is a college football media outlet, primarily SEC. And I watch him on his Facebook Lives and read his stuff. And he said while we were there, he predicted that Alabama would lose. As much of an Alabama fan, he didn't expect it to be what it was, but he really thought we were the better team. And one of the things he kept saying was, what did he say about Tua? He said Tua is, did he say weak? I don't know if he said
Tua lets plays beat him multiple times.
He made it sound like he was a sissy, and he said that in the game against Georgia, because wasn't it Jalen Hurts that helped them win that game in the playoff? So. Or in the SEC
No, in the
championship.
SEC championship.
Okay, he said in that game, Tua came out and was literally to the coaches, I don't know if I should play with my injury. I don't know. Like trying to force the coach's hand to put him on the bench in lieu of Jalen because they said he was a sissy boy.
That's not the type of player you want on your team.
No, but I got to be honest, and I didn't really believe that. But when I saw, then we saw it firsthand in the national championship. What he said wasn't wrong. It seemed like once he got we got under his skin, or he was up against a formidable opponent that he didn't know what to do, and that it almost was like he started to be like, I don't want this responsibility. And we whooped his ass for it.
That's lack of confidence.
You can't have it. You can't have it. So kind of I know we're bouncing around, but jumping back to Oklahoma. So first, I believe it's the first game of the year, I think. It's August 31st. Houston goes to Oklahoma. So I'm trying to kind of go back there and see now. Ed Oliver gone.
Yeah, what is Houston now,
Holgerson. Dana Holgerson is coming back. Coaching is everything in college football, my friend.
Yeah. I don't think...
A new quarterback. You've lost some weapons over at Oklahoma, but
I think Oklahoma rolls in that one.
I mean...
I don't know. Is there a spread yet?
I don't think so.
I got to think it would be double digits.
Yeah. In 2016, Houston beat OU when they were number 3.
I mean, it is a rivalry game more so for Houston than it is for Oklahoma. But you're going to get the best they have to offer. But I just don't know that they have the talent. I mean, take away hurts. Who cares who's playing quarterback? I think man for man, especially in the trenches, they don't have it. You need that special guy like Ed Oliver, who just flips it on its head.
Yeah, he can take over
because you can't. No one's blocking him.
Well, and again, I say coaching is everything in college football, and I think Holgerson, the pedophile, no, he looks like a pedophile. Just cut the hair off, man. I think he'll do good, but I think it's too early because, it's one of those situations where he hasn't had a full season there with those guys, a full season to recruit, So I think that it could be competitive in futures, but right now, I don't think. But that said, Oklahoma takes a loss right out the gate. That's going to be tough. But again, you're talking about a division. I don't know. And I hearken back to the national championship. Until the Pac-12 steps the frig up, let's keep the national title game not away from California. Arizona's as far as it should go. The game should be played a little more central. Play it in the Cotton Bowl. Play it in Texas. The weather wasn't great. It was miserable.
It was ridiculous to send everybody to California like that.
It was spread out all over the yard. The price... Yeah. The price just to get out. People were giving up tickets that they actually had to the game because they couldn't afford to actually get to the venue. Ridiculous. And it was a nice venue, but it was like the Bay. It was in San Jose or Santa Clara, which is San Jose, but it was quote unquote the Bay Area. So you've got San Francisco up here, and then you got 20 minutes, a half hour. You got Oakland over here, and then another 45 minutes away from there is San Jose. The halftime show was actually at that Treasure Island between Oakland and San Francisco. Not that anyone really... No one cared. It was a decent halftime show. But the point is like they set it up as like the Bay Area is hosting it. And it was so inconvenient. I've been to the past 2 national title games that Clemson has been in. And it has been very well done, where it was kind of central in one area. The whole area was set up nicely with banners everywhere. You felt like you were there for the game. And this place was spread out. You just felt like you were at a city on vacation, not for anything special. Until the Pac-12 steps up, that shit needs to go.
Well, an event like the national championship, I think it's extremely important that it's centralized and that everything is within a reasonable distance, because people spend so much damn money to go to those things. And then if you're going to all these different spots and, having to travel and then decide where you're going to stay in between all that, like it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to throw it to like the far quadrant of the country. I mean, shit, let's do it in Hawaii then. At least it'll be nice weather.
It was,
You know?
I mean, man, I tell you something. It was just an excursion to get there.
But you have like Indianapolis.
That's what I said. And
Centrally
keep in mind,
located.
it's coming. They have, I think, 2021. It's there, but that's
Dallas.
Dallas,
Pretty centrally located.
Yeah, I mean, you've got places all over that you could go. That would be.
I
much
mean, I
better
wouldn't
than
be
where it was.
opposed to it being outdoors, but if you were going to do outdoors, it would have to be in the South, or it would have to be.
Well, and we talked about that when we were there, because when we landed, the weather, if you remember at the time in Atlanta, it was like 40s, 50s, cold and rainy. Well, it was the same there, but because it's on the coast, it was also windy.
No,
and
real
it
cold.
was miserable. And I looked at, Chris Marler, the guy I was with, who's an Alabama fan, said, listen, the two best teams are in this game. And heaven forbid that the game is won or lost because of the elements. Because somebody slips and misses a tackle and a guy goes long or something like that.
That's all part of it, though.
No.
Everybody's playing in the same. If it's raining, everybody's playing in the rain.
The point is you said it. I don't mind playing outdoors, but you'll have to play here. I think you need it. It's not a part of it. That's the national championship game. You need them to be clicking on all cylinders as they are. Not in September, in October. Yes. That's all part of it. Okay? The elements should definitely be a factor,
Right.
in games in September, October leading up. But in the national championship game, I want to see both teams, with everything they got, so to speak. I don't want it to be as a result of outside factors, be it the weather, the refs, what have you.
Well, the refs certainly should never be a part of it.
Yeah, but that can happen. I mean, look at how the Saints got absolutely beat down because of that call.
Yeah.
Lost the chance to go to the Super Bowl, man.
No, yeah. I know.
But, that said, it was, there's no reason that they should have had that game out there. It was complete nonsense. So until the Pac-12 really kind of comes into play where you should give it a reason.
Even if they do come into play, I mean, you still need to be, I think, more centrally located. I don't think it should be in New York or New Hampshire either. I mean, I guess that gets a little fuzzy when it comes to the South, because throwing things like that in places like Miami is usually pretty good.
Yeah,
and that
the
again,
Sugar Bowl in New Orleans,
and that
a little more
again
central.
is a far quadrant, just like I was saying about being up in the Bay Area.
Correct, but here's the thing, bro. You're going to have, no matter who it is, as well as I do. I'll give you and I don't even think it's a bold prediction. For the next decade, every national championship will have a team from the South. At least one. At least one team will be from somewhere in the South. That's just what's going to happen.
Safe to say. I think you could probably break it down to 2-3 states.
Yeah. So, I mean, that said, then at least if it is in the far quadrant down in Miami, one of the teams it's convenient for, that shit out there, it was inconvenient for me. I'll tell you right now, I got off the plane and I was looking at Alabama fans and we were just shaking our head. What the hell are we doing here? What are we doing here? Right. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, off on a tangent. So, we were talking about Oklahoma.
I stand corrected. I was talking about Jalen Hurts not producing points.
And he
and
crushed,
that, and that's not totally true.
Okay.
Oh shit! I just lost the screen.
That's all right. But I
This
reluctant.
has such a there's a delayed reaction here. So
that iPad's old.
But anyway, there were several games in the 40s and a couple in the 60s.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that could be the case.
I just didn't remember him. I didn't remember him lighting it up like that. And maybe it was more in the running game, or maybe I'm just wrong. I'm trying to get that back, but
it's okay. What do we got here? Bold predictions.
One of the things I was going to say, though, with talking about new coaches and integrating schemes and all that kind of stuff, even though I'm not a fan, I find it very interesting to see Paul Johnson move on and to see what's going to happen down there with being able to transform a football program pretty much 180 degrees, because
Are they not running triple option under this guy
not
at all?
running triple option. He said he's going to do what he needs to do to get his players integrated.
Yeah, because they've recruited for triple option.
Adjusting, but he is not going to be lining up in the wing T and, running triple option and throwing the ball. They're searching for equal pass attempts, rush attempts.
It could be.
Granted, everybody's searching for that, but going from a team that attempted, 5 passes a game.
Yeah, it could be a while, man. You got to recruit guys for that. And if they've recruited guys for that triple option, and as we know, Georgia Tech, they may not be that great, but they're always like a top 5 team at the end of the season in terms of most rushing yards because they run that shit and they don't throw the ball. But
you think they'll still be a good rushing team when their rushing attempts are not through the option?
I don't know.
So they line up in, say the pistol, and they're running play actions out of that. I wonder if they'll still be
a decent enough
good rushing team.
You got to understand it is Tech, and like some of those smarter schools, your Stanfords, your Dukes, your North Carolinas, the ability to get players that can, qualify to go to school there, I'm not saying they have to have the grade point average that, an average person would. Obviously, they're football
No, they
players,
have their adjusted.
but they are going to be harder to get into than Clemson, Bama, Georgia.
It's just the athletic adjustment,
right
to the acceptance requirements.
So you're not going to have these superstar athletes, and that was one of the reasons Paul Johnson, when they were successful, is because they had a gimmick.
I have been noticing more and more.
Take that.
No, it's from Iowa. It's telemarketing. I have been noticing more and more, and maybe it's a little bit because of what I pay attention to and what we've set as priorities for our recruits, but I have been noticing more and more a lot of the good athletes putting more emphasis on classroom and like getting good grades and graduating early and like all that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like when we were younger, most of the athletes could give a shit about academics, and they were
I can tell you, I had class
mostly fucking dumbasses.
Yeah, I had class with them, and I'd love to see how the Clemson players act in class now. Because when I was in school there and I had class with them, they literally, and the coaches too. Bro, I had like freshman year, I think I had like calculus or something like that, and I had a ton of them in there. And one of the coaches walked by the classroom and literally like did a double take, stopped, backed up, put his head in the classroom, and like the entire class, or half of it, which was football players, was like, "Yo, what's up?" Got up and like distracted the teacher. That was the coaches doing. I couldn't believe it. Mid-class. I couldn't believe it.
But I do think there's. I think you find more athletes now that pay attention to doing well and trying to be more well-rounded. And I think that will allow better athletes to find their way
to Tech.
It may. Look what's been happening. The Army and Navy have been getting pretty good athletes lately.
They have.
Stanford's always done a good job, but you have these other team. Vanderbilt's been coming on lately. You look at these.
Coaching has a lot to do with that.
You look at these schools that have the high academic standards, and a lot of them are doing as well as they've done in the past 10 to 15 years. I think.
Sure.
I don't have any data to back that up other than just thinking about it.
Yeah, Vanderbilt has seen its, some of its better year. Vanderbilt comes and goes. It had a little
they're
spurt.
Player related.
Had a spurt when they had Jay Cutler too.
Player related.
Yes. Usually quarterback related. If they have a decent quarterback, they're pretty good. And quarterbacks tend to be smart, so it's not surprising you have a guy that's a good quarterback that can get in there. But speaking of quarterbacks, we got all these transfers, and I'm not all about the transfer portal, but there is, first of all,
That's going to change college football. If it continues the way it happened
it
this
will. Because you can't go
offseason.
back after what they've already set a precedent for.
Well, yeah, but they can tweak rules and stuff. I think they expect to tweak if necessary, because at some point you got to stop, you got to hold people accountable for something, and I don't know really what the solution is, and I don't feel like players should be trapped at a school, but I also don't feel like it should be all out free agency.
No, that'll crush people. I mean, it's just going to be chaos.
There's going to end up being like a signing period every year with your players to make sure they're coming back.
You kind of took the words out of my mouth. I mean, like, as much as, especially as fans value the recruiting period and signing day, and now there's 2 signing days, like, it's going to devalue recruiting if it does that.
Well, you still have to get an exception. Now, I don't to transfer and play if you're not a graduate transfer.
Yes.
Like, I'm cool with the graduate transfer free
They've
agency.
done their time. Whether they've played or if they've played for the team during their time before they've graduated, then, like, if they've been a solid player, they probably are not going to leave, if they stay for that year. But if they haven't played a lot, but they've done their time, they want to transfer, by all means.
What if you want to get a doctorate or go for a degree that school doesn't offer? I mean, just for that reason alone, I think you kind of have to let a graduate transfer play immediately, because if you're at a school and you want to get a master's in something that they don't offer, I mean, you need to be able to go where you want to go to get your degree. True.
But again, it's going to devalue recruiting.
Yeah.
If it just starts to get out of control like
this.
And
what are the rules about player-coach interactions when you're attending a school? Like, could a coach call up,
I don't know
Trevor Lawrence and be like, "Hey, man, what's up? How's it going?"
I don't know that they can until they officially announce that they're leaving a school. Because look at Kelly's situation this year. There wasn't a whole lot of chatter about where he was going to go until, okay, I'm not there, now I'm out. Remember after he said I'm going to transfer, there was a decision, and then he officially
so when you're attending,
then after that it was like, okay, here's who he's looking at, and it was like a couple weeks thereafter that the coaches he started doing his visits.
Putting your name into that transfer portal that opens up that line of communication?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because, I don't think there's got to be some sort of contract. You can't do that while he's attending school there or as a part of the team.
You got to police it too.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this. Because then who's to say he can't, if he's like, well, I'm no longer a part of this team, I'm not going to be at the school, what do I care? I mean, I'll tell them what plays we run. Then you can start to divulge information about way things are done. You don't want that to happen. So I think it's when they act officially, like you said, they're in that portal is when coaches can come calling. And speaking of which, I see on that one of these bold predictions is that Missouri, now that Kelly Bryant is there, is going to be a top 10 team in the month of November.
I hope so. Good for Kelly Bryant.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm a little shocked. I thought it was a shoo-in for Arkansas to get him. With Coach Morris over there, the piss-poor season they had for his first year there, because he's trying to implement his offense and he doesn't have the tools to do it. And Kelly's the perfect quarterback, and he recruited him, and he knows it. I'm really shocked that, because, I mean, Missouri might have been better than Arkansas, but they weren't a contender either. Okay, so it's not like.
So what do you think sealed the deal for him then to go there?
I don't know. I mean,
he's got to think he's got a chance to win. How many years of eligibility does he have left? 2?
and maybe that's it. Maybe being in the East as opposed to the West, because Arkansas is in the West and Missouri's in the East, and it's an easier path in the East. I guess. I mean, let's see. They go to Athens at the end of October, and that's probably their toughest game. Let's see. It says 5-week stretch of home game. They have 5 home games from September.
No, he only has 1 more season left. That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like he'd probably flourish more in terms of the running and the throwing under Coach Morris, but maybe he really wants to try to get himself eligible for next year to get in the draft. I don't know. Maybe.
I never thought his potential in the pros was at quarterback. Just like Jalen Hurts. Like, I think both of those guys, if they tried, and I don't know what their skills are for this, but if they tried to play maybe safety or running back, maybe tight end, H-back, something like that, I think they might have a better chance. I mean, who knows? Maybe they have some good skills to be a D-end even, because both of them are big. And they're big athletic dudes, but I don't think they have the passing potential or maybe really the intelligence to do it.
I don't know. I honestly think his best shot of potentially going to the NFL, whether it be drafted late or undrafted free agent, would have been to stay at Clemson, even if he was a backup.
Ask Travion Thompson.
Yeah,
he
did nothing.
He'll probably get
he
drafted.
did not do anything, but he was a good receiver for us. But he had freshmen come in and start before him as a senior. He had guys pass him up left and right. He's still got his time. He'll get in the NFL.
You do see guys who weren't really the stars on their team come into the NFL and outproduce the supposed star from the team. I've seen that before.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of guys, too, in the quarterback position because of how needy so many NFL teams are to find that guy. And because of a guy like Tom Brady, who's drafted in like the 6th round, and they saw potential in him and they knew they could groom him. I mean, Matt Castle, that guy was a backup most of his career. Liner, wasn't he a backup most of his career at USC before that last year? There's been a few guys at USC who were came in maybe for 1 year and then but yeah, I mean I don't know that his path to the NFL is going to be better served transfer. I think he should have stayed. I think that he would, if worse came to worse, he'd certainly have the exposure if he stayed at Clemson in terms of, we won the national title. He'd be a name that NFL teams would recognize a lot more. If Missouri's not very good, he's going to get forgotten.
This is one of the things that kind of pissed me off about the media exposure that whole situation got. If you listen to the interview of the coach, who's the one that's making the fucking decisions, he just said they were changing their starter. At no time did he tell Kelly Bryant that they platooned all year.
Yep.
They platooned all year.
What did you say about the slide?
What's that?
What did you tell me back then? The metaphor you gave me about going down a slide.
Oh, I don't remember.
You don't remember that? You're like, you said they phrased it wrong. What they should have said is, this week, Trevor gets to go down the slide first.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That was it really is true. They were platoon. They would have kept doing it. And granted, Trevor might have taken more role, but you're right. They would have kept platooning. He would have more play time.
He would have played in the national championship
Yes,
game.
he would have.
Shit, especially at that score. I mean, he would have played probably the whole second half, or at least the whole fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. He would have had more exposure.
I remember saying that now, and I was kind of making fun of him for being a little kid and leaving. And that's why I use that analogy.
It's a very, very good analogy. This week, we've taken it. This week, Trevor goes down the slide first.
Yep.
It's not to say you don't get to go. It's just he gets to go first.
Yep. But I do think in that conversation, I bet you Dabo did let him know that being that was kind of D-Day for Kelly Bryant deciding if he wanted to stop playing and be able to make his own choice, which I'm sure Dabo is a huge proponent of allowing him to make his own choice, even if it was to the detriment of his own team. But I think he probably did tell him there is a chance that Trevor plays 75% of the game.
Yeah.
Maybe not next week or the week after, but
that he could take over a more prominent role as the lead quarterback. I agree. And, the coach even said it. I mean, he came out and was like, to give him at least the opportunity if he was going to make the move.
And then, I think that would have been more positive press for him throughout the year. And
we'll see, man. I mean, there's a lot of this. I got to be honest.
So,
not that we'll see Miami on the schedule unless we meet them in the championship game. And we'll see if Martell gets in. I've watched this kid in high school. There's a reason he didn't see the field hardly. Maybe I saw him, I think, once.
What do you think about that whole coaching or quarterback carousel that just happened this offseason? I mean, it was just one player goes here, and then this guy's like, oh shit, he just came here, I'm out.
Correct.
I
don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know. I don't have a ton of confidence in Justin Fields either. I don't know that he's that great. I don't know what kind of arm he has.
I think if he was better than Fromm, he would have played.
I agree. And I don't think his arm's as good as Fromm's. And I don't think Fromm is he's no Trevor Lawrence's arm, but his decision making, his attitude.
I would say Justin Fields' athletic ability and ability to produce on the field is probably way higher than Fromm's. But I would say Fromm's intellect is probably, from what I kind of heard and from talk radio guys talking about, was talking to this guy and was talking to this guy, and the word is he's having a hard time picking things up.
That doesn't surprise me. But at the same token, Fields got playing time his freshman year at Georgia, right?
He did.
Not enough to, every time Justin Fields went in the game.
Very certain playing time.
I have one question for you. Every time you saw Justin Fields come in at quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs this season, what kind of play did they run?
Well,
what kind of play did they run?
Stacking the box.
What kind of play did they run?
Running play.
Did you see him really throw the ball? They didn't
I think he does have a few attempts, but
everybody knew it's like on 3rd and that 7 for Clemson. Where's the ball going? Hunter. Everybody in the stadium, the announcers. When Fromm came in the game this year as the season progressed,
Fields.
Everybody knew they're going to run the ball.
They're running the ball.
They're running the ball. So if he was such a highly touted quarterback out of high school, he should have some sort of an arm. And if everybody's thinking run, why didn't we see him throw the ball more?
Well, you would think play action would be perfect.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. People are starting to commit. I can understand early in the season, use what he's got, don't put him in too much, but as the season progresses, it's not that hard for him to learn a couple play actions to, fake out of it and see if the kid can actually
practice
throw the ball.
That one fucking pass all week. Practice that one pass.
That's it.
All week. If that's what you need to do
to get it right. With 3 routes, that's it.
Yeah. And
you didn't see him throw, so I just don't, and not that Tate Martell was the answer at Ohio State. I just hope we get to see him at some point because I think we'll tear his head off as a Clemson fan. But I don't know that Fields is going. I mean, what they
I don't know shit about Tate Martell other than he was talking to Fields about coming there, and you don't want to come up here, trying to. I don't know.
Tate Martell is a little rich kid,
and then he comes up there and he's like, "Fuck that! I'm not gonna battle him. I'm gonna go somewhere else."
Because he's not. I don't know how great Fields is, but I could tell you right now that Fromm isn't, or that Martell isn't as good as Fields. And you're right. What kind of competitiveness is that?
You're a pussy.
Yeah.
You're a pussy.
You've been there longer. You've been waiting your time.
Some of those guys in Miami, especially with the Miami attitude, I gotta think some of those players, probably more the defensive players, are sitting in their dorm rooms with the other defensive players saying, "Man, that dude's a bitch coming here."
They're all gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you. Yeah, that guy. He's not. He is a rich kid whose parent he played at
some academy.
No, it was the one school in Vegas. It'll come to me in a second. The one high school. It's like IMG down in Florida. It's it's a school for you to go
to produce athletes.
Yeah.
You either pay a lot or you get
and that's what it was.
Scholarship.
It's expensive. I'm telling you.
Some of those other kids that go there, they get scholarships.
QB1. Yeah. He's from that show QB1. He was in season 1 of QB1, and I watch it, and he is a little rich kid. And I think he sometimes doesn't know what the color of his skin is. Oh. He's one of those too. He thinks he is cool guy. And it's like, buddy, look, he's not that big. And what I saw on tape, he wasn't that good. He doesn't listen to the coach. Like, that's his program, high school program that has won national titles and that is consistently considered as one of the top programs and one to be reckoned with. And that coach has been there a long time that has garnered those rings. And this kid under his helm was talking back, not running the plays he called. I mean, like, who are you? That coach is the guy that has built this program and has had other really good quarterbacks before you who have succeeded when they've listened to the coach. Now, I think the coach is kind of a meathead, but this kid came in.
How old was he? Like 14?
Yeah,
14 years old, like talking back to an adult?
Yeah, go watch it. It's something else. I think he will fail.
I mean, it's one thing to do that in college, and that's not okay either. But like as a freshman or a sophomore in high school to be like talking back to an adult, I mean, that's
it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
That's a problem that goes beyond football.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know that he'll ever succeed. And if he does so happen to, there's no way an NFL team. I mean, this is if they're you talk about some of these kids that are like Manziel-ish. This kid would be Johnny Manziel.
Where the hell is Johnny Manziel? Isn't he in the AAF?
They're saying an AAF team is looking at him. He was playing Canadian football. I saw a couple games. Is he doing any good? He looked awful, but it's really? Johnny Manziel. I don't understand. He's not. He's a headline and not in a good way. But AAF team. I don't know if they picked him up. Somebody was looking at him, but yeah,
it didn't take long for him to fall.
Oh, what a punk. What a punk. But
how many years ago was he drafted? What was that? 3 years ago, maybe?
No, it was longer.
4?
No, this has to have been a while. It has to have been like at least 4. I don't remember.
It hasn't been that long since. I mean, I can remember seeing him not too terribly long ago. His fall from grace was quick, and I think it started before an NFL game even was played. I think something happened in the offseason.
Well, I mean, again, Manziel, like this Martell kid, comes from a rich family background.
Feels entitled.
Yep, entitled, thinks they deserve it, has never had their back against the wall in the sense of like real life issues. Like he comes from a family with money. And, it's not that the kid probably hasn't had issues, but like when you struggle financially, it can be, families, parents. It can
You take
rock
things
your
more
world.
seriously.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. It can
You're
rock
forced
your
to
world.
take things more seriously. You're forced to be a little more mature.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked a little earlier when we were talking about where the national title game is, and I want to kind of wrap up today talking about the West Coast. And I was saying, that I don't think that they should have a game out there until the Pac-12 gets better. I do want to kind of touch, because one thing we really haven't spoken on in any of the podcasts is the Pac-12.
I don't know much about that.
That's why I gotta put you on the spot, but you do. See, that's
Maybe
the
a little
thing
bit.
you do. You lived out there for a while. It may have not been recent, but you know the attitudes of some of those programs, or
Actually-
the fans around it.
And they do take their football more seriously than people in the South give them credit for. I will say that.
I don't doubt it.
USC football is a big thing in LA.
Well, what's going to happen with USC football? It's not very good right now.
No, it's not. Neither is UCLA.
No, that entire, what is that? The South, it's Pac-12 North and South is.
I think
You're
the only
talking
one in the
Arizona State.
The only one in the Pac-12 that's really any good anymore is what, Washington and Oregon?
Yeah, and Stanford can be a
And
formidable
yeah.
opponent. Utah can be really. Dude,
You're
Utah,
reaching.
no. Whittingham's a great coach.
No,
man.
yeah, I know, but I'm just
they're tough. If you have to
They
go
are
to
tough.
Utah to
Oh,
play,
well, shit.
I mean I wouldn't want to do that as a Clemson fan. I am dead serious. I would not want to go to Utah.
see,
to
maybe
play.
I didn't watch them enough.
You go
I
to
mean,
Utah, you go play a game at Utah as Clemson, you can get beat. I promise you.
Well, and he get
They're very good defensively, and their coach is young and tough, just like Dabo is.
So you have the Pac-12 right there. Read me down those teams.
No, I have. I was just
okay.
looking at something because Oregon is going to be. I think Oregon's the team to beat. You have pretty much their entire offense, including Justin Herbert, coming back, and they were a really good offense last year. Their defense is definitely getting.
That's another
better.
one of those conferences they don't play a lot of defense in.
No, but that's why the North more so than the South, because you have, again, Utah is more defensive. Stanford is typically a more defensive team, but Washington and Oregon have started to be. I'll say this: they've had some superstars on the defensive side of the ball. In Washington, a couple years back, you had that Buda Baker kid back at safety, and then their secondary was great. Last year, they had like a linebacker or a DN that was really good. The number one recruit in the country is the DN kid is going to Oregon this year.
Yeah. They get players. I know they get players. I know Oregon gets USC. I'm sure still pulls players. When I did used to live there, man, they would pull everybody. That was in the early 90s.
Yeah,
Or
it's
even,
a lot different now. I mean, like in the Pac-12, like Stanford and Oregon and Washington overall have really kind of stood out overall. Now, again, Utah, you watch, is one of those teams that is, because of their
have to pay attention.
coach, who's young and tough, and he'll be there for a while. And then again, you look at Arizona State. I mean, I'm
usually
like
passed out drunk by
and
that time.
respect Herm Edwards, but him going back to coach college after all those years, I questioned it. I was very pleased to see what he did with that team in the South. That they contended their first year to go to the Pac-12 championship.
I was pretty amazed by that too. I kind of was getting the feeling it was like a publicity stunt or something getting him there.
He did a great job, and I don't doubt that he's a good coach, but I just didn't know
Didn't
how
he
he
not
was as a
even know
recruiter.
their mascot in the first press conference or something?
Something like that. It's ridiculous. dude.
Well, I think it was based upon that I was like, is this just some sort of publicity stunt or something?
it's a
Like,
little old
come
too,
on,
man.
man.
He's a little old too.
They just fucking stroked you a check with lots of zeros.
Yeah. So, all right. So now I got them up here for you now. The North has Stanford, Washington, Oregon. Washington State was very good this year with the mad
They can be.
scientist.
Yep.
I mean, he is
Yeah.
gotta have the mad scientist. It's like Les Miles. It's like the old ball coach. You gotta have your characters of college football and coaching seats, and he's one of them. Oregon State and Cal. That's the 6 teams in the North, and then your South.
See, we need a
So
good database here, because what I would like to see is like the last 3 years of all those teams just out of conference games. That's all I want to see is out of conference.
Well,
because
we could pull that.
Yeah,
Producer's
I know.
not here today.
But I mean, so that's what's really. I mean, that's to me is what, because shitty teams can go ahead and beat up on shitty teams and whatever, and I think that really tells the story, because you look at all that list of teams doesn't seem like a terrible list of teams.
No, Utah is actually in the South. So you got Utah, Arizona State, USC, UCLA, Colorado. And actually Colorado was at the beginning of the year competitive, and they're trying to get there. But
there's a couple of things that you don't like. One,
Chip Kelly
who's
had an awful first year.
For the best way for a conference to get credibility and to get publicity is to have a team that can contend. And that's
been Washington primarily, because they were the only who's been in the Final Four out of the Pac-12. Washington is the only one. Oregon hasn't been in it yet. Washington's the only one to make the playoff.
Yeah, that's only a couple of years. You know, you got to go before that though.
They weren't
the
even,
sample size isn't big enough.
No, but that's how long the college football playoff has been around.
No, I know, but still, in then
playoff.
Before the playoff, I'd say like out of the top 5 teams or something like that.
Well, Oregon was in a national title game against Florida State,
right?
And USC is typically a powerhouse. They've just been MIA for a while,
quite some time.
Stanford has been competitive. You know,
yes.
they've been in BCS bowl games prior to the college football playoff.
They usually have a good core, and they need that one superstar, and then that makes them good for the time that he's there.
That's about it. I mean, like one of these teams, I mean, they have the potential to step up in the Pac-12 and maybe in some of these. Any of these conferences, I don't care, even the Big Ten, once they meet an SEC or an ACC team like Clemson, or when Florida State gets back to its prominence, it's going to be a problem.
I mean,
because
what if like
everything, running, passing, lots of different plays. Defense is really good and dynamic.
This is what I'm saying about the Pac-12, though. You can take a mid-level SEC team like Missouri. Say Missouri was playing in Pac-12 next year. I'd say they probably win.
Oregon, if we're looking at this year coming up, again, because I think Oregon's defense was much better last year than we give them credit for. I think their head coach he brings that, he's the guy from Florida, Cristobal.
Yeah.
So he has that, he knows what it's like to play down here in the South and that kind of football. I think he's bringing it there. You see them as they recruited that DN kid, Okafor or something or other.
Yep.
And I think this is the year, even though Washington or Stanford and throughout the college football playoff have been considerations early in the year, I think this is the year they might have a shot to get another team into the playoff. At the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, Herbert's is a good. They're going to be a good off. They could be a really good team this year.
Who do they play? What are their out of conference opponents this year? I mean, obviously they. Does the Pac-12, do they all play each other? Everybody, or do they have like the cross conference or not cross division games? Like we play
They play
3 people from
right.
the other division every year, right? And we play Georgia Tech every year.
Right.
How do they run
I
their...
wonder if that'll change.
I don't know why we don't just play... Well, you don't have enough games, that's why.
Well, that's an argument for a different day, but there's that whole debate of whether you should play like 9 conference games.
I don't think you need to add more games into a regular season. I think, you're talking about 9 conference games against what do we play now?
7 maybe? 6 maybe?
And does that increase the total amount of games that you play through the year, or do you just take away some of your cupcakes?
Okay, here's Oregon's 2019 schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. First game is Auburn.
Ooh, okay.
Where did they play that game last year?
Is that the Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
kickoff game?
That's what it was last year. This year, it's at the AT&T Stadium because
Okay.
Auburn was the home team last year.
And now they're going down to Dallas.
So now they're in Dallas. Oregon's the home team. Then the second game of the year, Montana goes to Oregon. Then Cal goes to Oregon. The game is their fourth game. Oregon has to travel to Washington. That's the game because they have to play Washington there. Even though I think they're going to end up being the better team, they have to go there. So then
So that's their second competitive game of the year.
Yeah. First,
because Montana.
Competitive conference game. I mean, Cal is usually whatever. They may look good here and there. Cal's not very good.
No.
Then they go to USC. I don't think that'll be a problem. Then they go to Arizona State. I think they could get a fight, but I don't think that would be a problem. Then Nevada goes to Oregon. So that's an out of conference.
Yep.
Then they go to Stanford to be tough. Then Colorado comes to them. Washington State comes to them. That could be a little tough. Arizona comes to them. Oregon State comes to them. Going to Washington and going to Stanford.
And what was their...
And then I guess playing Auburn.
What was their record last year?
Last year's... Hang on. I think they only
lost a couple of games, I think.
Like 2 or 3 games.
Because they were in the top 25 at the end of the year, weren't they?
Yeah, they were
top 10.
No, they were 9-4. That's why 3 and 4. Yeah, they actually came in 4th place in the Pac-12 North. Washington State, Stanford, Oregon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to have tough times with those teams. Keep in mind, Gunnar Minshew at Washington State is gone now. He graduated. So, even though you do have the mad scientist, and I think they have that other guy that played some time, they'll have a decent aerial attack. But I don't know if not the experience of Minshew. So it should be a little bit easier. I don't know that Washington is their quarterback's gone. He's been there forever.
See, now you're gonna make me pay attention to the Pac-12.
Bryce Kelly's going at Stanford, right? I think so. I think he's going in the NFL this year. I think. So yeah, I mean Oregon's going to be interesting. That side, the Pac-12 North could be interesting this year. The South will be boring as all get out.
Well, they don't have anybody that's any good.
Yeah.
They're gonna battle to be the worst.